Hey guys, it's Amber from NotableInk.com, and today I'm sharing creative masking, ink blending, and more. First, let me share some of the new release products. What I'm most excited about is a new ink blending brush. It comes in its own little case here, and you can see the white bristles are super dense, and all of the bristles touch the surface, so it's not rounded on the side, so I'm excited to see how this performs. I like that the bristles are white so you can see what color you've used so you don't get confused. And it snaps right into its case for easy storage. We also have metallic threads, and so this is antique gold, enchanted gold, and silky lilac. Apothecary Labels is a 4x6 stamp set, which is going to be great. I use that a couple different ways. Bergenia Builder has these lovely sentiments as well as large florals and individual florals for your favorite coloring medium. It also has a coordinating stencil and mask set as well. Bird of Paradise is a layering set, so I'm going to show you how I use that for several different blooms and kind of do some ink mixing on the stamps. And then we have Say It With Love, which is perfect for sentiments inside your cards. Lots of great sentiments here. So let's get started. I use the Caps Bold Alpha die to cut some masking paper, and I'm just taking off the release paper from the back with my craft pick, and I'm making sure that the masking paper stays in the die, and that's pretty easy because I left my purple tape on the dies, which I used to align them, and so the masking paper is stuck to that tape. So I'm going to use the handles of the tape to help position the U onto the card panel. It's an A2 size Nina Classic Crust Solar White 80-pound cardstock panel, and I'm just using that ruler to get it aligned, and then I'll press down the masking tape letters, and I'll go ahead and gently peel up the dies. I decided to keep the tape on the dies in case I wanted to die cut this again for another one of the cards, but I don't end up using it later. So I'll just use the ruler to press down the masking tape to make sure it's good and adhered. And then I want to pick what color I want to use for the sky. I was thinking this would be a sky, darker at the top, blended out to white at the bottom. And I was going to use Ocean Waves, which is part of the Cool Summer Night color family. You can see that there, but I decided to go with Caribbean Sky, which is part of Glacier Caves, and I also used Persian Blue and Sapphire from that set as well. So those are the cards that come with the oval ink sets, and I just use those as my ink swatches rather than swatching them out myself. That works well for me without the effort of having to go into all of the ink swatching. I'm blending on a super light layer of Caribbean Sky, and I've brought it down maybe to the last third of the card panel. Now I'm coming in with Persian Blue, again starting at the top but not bringing it down quite as far. I'm going about halfway down the panel, and I'm blotting it off on my ink mat. So I'm inking up the blender, blotting it off on my ink mat. You can see it much better with the Sapphire because it's darker, and then bringing it in to the card, starting off of the card panel and then blending and working my way down. The glass mat is great because you can pick up that extra ink and put it right on your project. Here I'm cleaning the ink blending tool on a stamp scrubber. It's damp, it's a little bit damp, and then I'm going to dry it off on a microfiber towel that is dry. And so here I'll just test to make sure I got all of it off and it is not carrying over any of that ink onto the paper, which is perfect. The bristles will stain, which is pretty normal for any ink blending brush. So here I have my blended panel. I'll go ahead and use my craft pick to remove those masks, and even though the color seemed really light before I took the masking paper off, you can see that beautiful ombre effect, how it fades out to white and how much ink really did get on the paper. So I love this clean look. So I'll go ahead and use the Bird of Paradise outline stamp. I'm going to stamp that in Obsidian ink. And I'm not going to show all of the stamping, but I'll show you one clip of each layer of the stamp. So I did the first one in Obsidian ink. I'm going to add a second one here, and eventually I add 3 more to the corner. But again, I'm not going to show you all of that inking because it's very repetitive. So I'm inking up the first layer of the leaf or stem in Sweet Leaf. The second one is in Just Green. And then I decided to put that first layer back on and add a little magenta to the top, because if you look at a Bird of Paradise, there is that purpley color to the top of it's not really a leaf or a stem. I'm not really sure what you call that part of the flower, but in any case, there's some purple up there. So I wanted to add that. Here I have Hunter Green for the last layer of the stem. So I'll just stamp that on. And then I'm using Sunkissed from the Warm and Cozy family for the first layer of the flowers. And for the second layer, I'll use Orange Cream, which is one of my favorite orange inks. I think it's such a pretty color. It's a cool orange, which I really like. I lean more towards cool colors and then warm tones. So this set of oranges really speaks to me. And then I have Fire Brick from the same Warm and Cozy set for the third layer of those flowers. Now in between those orange flowers are some little blue purpley tendrils. So I did the first layer in Persian blue, which I had grabbed the wrong color. I had intended to use a lighter blue, and then I'm adding hydrangea for the second layer of those. Now I grabbed the coordinating sentiments from the same set, and I'm going to add Paradise here. And this tiny little stamp reads, "You are my." So I need to mask off you because obviously I've already ink blended it. So I covered it with a little piece of purple tape, and then I peeled up the purple tape and went ahead and stamped it. I have totally ruined projects before by forgetting to remove the tape, so don't forget that part. So here you can see the beautiful blending, how these stamps layer up. That extra bit of magenta at the top of those leaves I think is so pretty. And I love how this card turned out. You can see I added 3 more of those. So next we have some really simple masking with Post-it note tape. I wanted a rough edge, so I'm just tearing one edge. All 4 of these pieces will be a completely different edge. And I'm just going to place that down on an A2 size card panel, and then I'll tape on the Halftone Stencil right on top of that. And this time I'm going to ink blend with Sunray. I have a different blending brush here. So if you're wondering how I got the blue off, I didn't. It's just a different brush. And I'm going to go ahead and ink blend this through the stencil. I want to keep it fairly light because I'm going to stamp Bergenia Builder right on top of this and color on top of the stenciling. So it's a different kind of masking. It's kind of like no masking. So we've masked with the tape, we've masked with the die cut letters, and this time we're really just going to mask it with our coloring. We're just going to color right on top of it. So here I have the largest stamp from the Bergenia set, and I stamped it twice in that same Sunray ink. And I've grabbed the Tropical Forest Artist Markers. Those refills just came out, so if you missed those in the last release, my markers were getting a little dry, so I was excited to have the refills. And here I'm going to be using all 4 colors. I start off with 3, so I filled it in with Bamboo. Now I have the Moss marker, and I'm putting in some dark shadows where the creases in the leaves are. So I'm kind of just doing a small little triangle, and then I'll blend that out with Olive. And then I'll kind of blend this out with Bamboo, and then I'll come in with a little bit of the Parrot, which is one of the midtones in this set. And I'll just keep blending until I have it to a place that I like it. It's all about layers with whether you're using Copics or artist markers, any kind of your alcohol markers. It's all about adding layers and kind of keeping blending. But you do want to have some high contrast in there. So you'll see at the end of the coloring of this leaf, I will come back in with one more coat of my darkest colors in smaller areas. I'll add just a tiny little bit. So here you can see it here. Just to darken those shadows and add a little bit more depth. It makes all the difference, you guys. So don't be afraid of your darkest colors. Make sure you get them in there so that you have the depth that you need to your images. So I'm just finishing this up, and then we'll move on to a couple of the petals. I'm not going to show all of the coloring because we would be here forever. And the next 2 cards that I'm going to show are much faster than these 2. I really needed some quick and easy designs after these 2, which were a little more involved with the ink blending and the layer stamping and then all of this coloring. So for the petals, it's the same thing. So I'm putting the darkest shadows at the base of the petals and then also anywhere where there's a crease. So here you can see I'm adding my shadows first. So these are smaller petals. So if you follow my channel, then you know that I color situationally. So with the leaf, it was a larger area. So I put down my lightest color first. These petals are really small. So I'm putting down my darkest color first, and then I'll come in with my midtones and blend it, and then come in with my lightest color. I may touch up those darkest areas with a little more depth, but for your smaller petals, it's easier to start with your darkest colors, I find. Here I have a Sakura Micron 01 pen, which is a Copic safe ink, and I'm just drawing in the stamens. Because I stamped this in Sunray, you can't really see any of the detail of the stamens in there. So I'm basically just kind of outlining a little bit what's there and kind of coming up with my own design as well, if I can't see it as clearly. I chose a sentiment from the set and stamped it in olive green, and here's the finished card. You can't see the ink blended background at all through our colored images, and so it masked it perfectly. Moving on to the next card, I have the largest image from the Apothecary Labels stamp set, and I'm inking it up in Warm Sunshine. I messed up on the one above it, so I'm just re-inking it here. I let that dry completely and then stamped one of the sentiments from Say It With Love. I've added I fussy cut that because I didn't have the die, put some foam tape on the back, and I added it to an alcohol ink panel that I made in a previous video. I will link that in the upper right corner so you can see how that was made with artist marker refills and the Bursting Dahlia stencil. It's a super cool technique, so be sure to check that out as well, but this one came together super fast. So here I have a piece of magenta cardstock and I'm stamping Bergenia Builder on this. Now ultimately I end up changing that to blue. I stamp a piece of light blue cardstock. Here I have a white panel. I'm stamping it in the exact same place. And then I'm going to go ahead and die cut the center of this out with a rectangle die. Now we're going to do some foam masking. So we're going to stamp this Apothecary Label stamp. This is the largest one right on top. Or maybe it's actually the second to the largest one. Right on top, so it looks like we've masked it. The flowers, you can't see through it because we've stamped it in black, and that was the whole idea. Again, I needed a quick card after those first two. And so I'm just going to line this up and I'll pop it up on sticky back fun foam. But again, I love this magenta one, but I ended up switching it to blue, honestly, you guys, just because I felt like it went better with my other cards and would look nicer in the photos. So you do you and pick whatever color is most pleasing to you. I finished it off with a Signature Words die cut right in the center, and here are all the cards together. I hope you enjoyed these creative masking ideas today and will give some of them a try. If you do, tag us at Altenew and at Notable Ink. We'd love to see what you're creating. Be sure to hop along with us. I'll have my blog post link listed down below, and all of the colors and supplies will be listed down below as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and ringing that bell so you don't miss any new inspiration. Here's a couple more videos for you before you leave, and I'll see you real soon.